Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the brand new 2025 Volkswagen Golf. But more specifically, this is the Golf R. It even has the blacked out and the European packages, making it one of the coolest and most stealthy Volkswagen Golfs to ever exist. And because it's the fastest part of this new 8.5 Mark generation, it's also the quickest. But while this is one of the coolest four-door performance cars you can buy, and one that I'm quickly falling in love with, it's not perfect, so today I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of the all-new 2025 Mark 8.5 Golf R to help you guys at home decide if it might be the right vehicle for you, or if you should leave it at the lawn and look at the other competition. So today you can expect to see a walk around, all the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts. And huge thanks to Goody Motor Volkswagen in Twin Falls, Idaho for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link them below if you're interested because they sell below MSRP, they ship all over the country, and with that said, let's dive right into this review. And thank you so much for watching car videos on YouTube today. But if you get anything out of this video, you like the Golf R, or you like my video, please be so kind to consider liking my video. Basically, that lets me know to make more stuff like this. It helps the video get shared, but will also help you by having YouTube choose to show you more stuff like this. Thank you so much. But if you're new to Volkswagen or the Golf, there's a lot of interesting things that you should probably know. Volkswagen is a German automaker. They were actually founded at the beginning of World War II, around 1937, and since then they have grown to be the second biggest automaker globally, which is absolutely insane, especially when you start to learn what brands they include. They own Bugatti, they own Porsche and Lamborghini, and the one that you're most familiar with probably is Audi. So there's a lot of luxurious sports car DNA that has trickled down to the Volkswagen name, especially when you talk about the Golf R, the highest performing Volkswagen to exist. This thing is pretty sweet, but this is the Mark 8.5. The Mark 8 generation came out in 2020, and then this refresh, which is mild, had a performance upgrade, had some other cosmetic and interior updates. It came out just this year, a few months ago for 2025. But the very first Volkswagen Golf to ever roll off the assembly line was back in a year I like to call 1974. And since then, believe it or not, there have been over 30 million Volkswagen Golfs to be assembled worldwide. That is absurd. Although the United States doesn't get very many of them, we haven't sold over 100,000 units since these first came to the United States, or at least started being recorded better a little while ago. But anyways, globally they sell about 300,000. Some years in the past when a smaller car like this was more popular compared to the larger trucks and SUVs of today, they have sold over 1 million Golfs globally in a single year, and that's pretty impressive. This one specifically was assembled in Germany before being shipped to the United States. And if you're wondering, well, the Volkswagen Golf team has kind of cut back on their trim levels. You can still get the lower trim level Golf. It starts at about $32,000, but if you want the big boy, the Golf R, it does start at about $47,000 after destination delivery, the blackout package and the Euro spec package. But before Goody, Twin Falls Volkswagen big discount, this one MSRPs for about $54,000, which ain't cheap for a compact car. Before $54,000, what do you get? You get a vehicle that has not been crash test rated yet, and while it's very unlikely that this will be a top safety pick, because most of the active and passive safety features that this has does not come standard across the lineup on the lower trim levels of the Golf, it is likely to be a 5-star crash test rated vehicle, so it probably holds up pretty well in accidents, has pretty decent crumple zones, and then this one being loaded out at over $50,000 does have a lot of active and passive safety features. So it has a heads-up display, it has bright LED headlights, a bunch of safety sensors all throughout the vehicle, even on the front fascia next to the tire, which is pretty interesting and not a common sight I see. And then it has lane keep assist, adaptive cruise, blind spot monitoring, turn signals on the mirror, and a few other things that you'll just have to wait to see throughout this video. But beyond that, because this is the Golf R, this is kind of like the gentleman's performance hot hatch. And the reason you buy it is because of the performance. It has a flywheel rating of 328 horsepower, which, due to the fact that these dyno around that, I think it's completely underrated. It probably makes 10 to 18% more horsepower than that before it goes through the 4Motion all-wheel drive system. So this is a very hard-hitting performance car, as you'll see quite soon. And then it has a DSG, a dual clutch 7-speed, which actually works really quick. The upshifts, I will say, are not nearly as fast as the downshifts when you're building revs, but overall it still does a pretty nice job at just cruising around. It doesn't feel too impulsive, doesn't feel too lurchy. It feels pretty good for being a dual clutch transmission. But beyond all that, for 54 grand, you have a lot of other nice features, including these checker pattern seats, which actually have really good bolstering. Are stamped in the front seats. You have kind of a hybrid manual and adjustable powered controls for the driver's seat. You have a heated seat for both you and your front seat passenger. You have a heated steering wheel. This one, because it is the Euro spec package, it loses some weight. It loses some features that the non-Euro has, like the panoramic sunroof, but it gains a few others, like the exhaust, which you can hear here. And a few other things that you'll see throughout this video. But I do have to say that the blacked out package for these forged 19-inch wheels, the blacked out R badges, and the Volkswagen emblems, honestly, look really good. I have never seen a better looking blacked out Volkswagen emblem ever. And I just have to get off script for 2 seconds to say that after driving this around through a variety of conditions over the last couple hours, between the highway, the country, around town, different parking lots, gravel, paved roads, a variety of surfaces, this thing has not disappointed me yet. I have had no moments yet where this has not been a super, very extremely enjoyable vehicle to drive. This thing is just awesome. And even in the sunshine or the shade, the Lapis Blue Metallic looks fantastic. Although this is a very iconic color, personally, I'd probably go with white. I think white and black would really add to the sleeper look, because when you see Lapis Blue on the Golf, you know it's a Type R or a Golf R. There's so many R's in the hot hatch world. Anyways, this thing is extremely fun to drive. I highly recommend, if you guys ever have the opportunity, go to your Volkswagen dealership, test drive one for yourself, see if I'm off my rocker or if I'm telling you the truth. This is a really fun car. Because the Golf is still a compact car, and it does have a lot of competition in this class, like the Honda Civic, the Toyota Corolla, and the Mazda 3, just to name a few, there really is a lot of other good vehicles to compete against this, and that might be part of the reason why the Golf sales have dropped down in the recent years. But because it is still a compact, it drives really well. It's small, it's maneuverable, it fits easily in the average size parking space or garage, but it's also big enough and heavy enough to still be confidence-inspiring and manage its own at highway and interstate speeds. And I think a lot of that comes to the fact that this is the Golf R. It has upgraded goodies. It has more weight than the non-R Golf. Anyways, this is about 14 feet long. The wheelbase is 8.5 feet, which is actually pretty decent. And then it's 5.8 feet wide, 4.8 feet tall. So although it's not as wide to height proportionately, extreme as a Lamborghini, as a Bugatti, it still looks really good. Still has a nice little bit of stance to it. Although it doesn't have crazy fenders like the GR Corolla or a big wing like the Honda Civic, it still has some nice touches, some gentleman touches. I don't know, we're not gonna maybe go there with language. Anyways, this is a pretty interesting car. It does weigh about 3,400 pounds because of the 4Motion all-wheel drive. It also has about a 956 pound payload capacity, which is absolutely absurdly well done by Volkswagen. For being a compact, that's 56 more pounds than my larger compact crossover, Toyota RAV4. Anyways, these have just under 5 inches of ground clearance, a 330 final axle ratio, and it can do a full circle in about 38 feet. And then the last couple things to mention here is the gas door, like a lot of Volkswagens, is located on the passenger side. When you lock the vehicle, thankfully the gas door locks, so you don't have to worry about the bums trying to siphon any of your 14.5 gallons of 91 premium or higher octane fuel. This thing, rated at 22 city, 31 on the highway, can get up to about 450 miles of range, which for a compact that's not a hybrid, not electrified, it's honestly pretty good. And then it has a square stance all around. Remember, this is a 19-inch forged aluminum wheel, which is really cool. And then it's blacked out because of the blacked out package. Although the front brakes are drilled, the back are not. They are a little bit smaller in diameter, but they still look absolutely fantastic. And then it has a 235, 35, 19 wheel and tire. It does have only about 7/32 of tread on these sticky 240 wear tires that are a Bridgestone Potenza. But then this is your key. You have panic button, you have lock, you have hatch release, not lift because there's no power liftgate option on this. You have unlock, and then the original one comes with a Volkswagen in the back, but you'll see pretty soon that you also have covers that have R on that, which is pretty cool. And then when the vehicle's fully locked up, you can see that the mirrors fold up, kind of like the Lamborghini doors. Interesting. And then you have the proximity key features right there to lock and unlock the vehicle. The driver's side door panel of the Golf opens up really wide. You can actually see that the window proportionately is quite big compared to the rest of the door panel. And then because this is the $54,000 version, the materials are overall pretty nice, where the UV rays are gonna most likely hit the top of the door sill. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper, but then you have some carbon fiber, then you have some nice suede for the door card, and then soft touch armrest everywhere else, nice handle that actually goes through, and then a pretty good sized pocket that actually has some felt lining so things aren't gonna jingle around as bad as they do on other vehicles. This does have Harman Kardon speakers, but you can't see that they're listed right there, which I'm not sure why Volkswagen does that. And then nothing on the door sill, surprisingly. You do have R listed on these all-weather mats, which are quite cool. Hybridized rubber and aluminum pedals. Because of where the hood release is though, you can't open that when the vehicle door is closed because the door seals up right there. Kind of interesting. Otherwise, OBD2 port down there, and I don't see any listing for any airbag. So again, part of the reason why it's not as safe as it could be if Volkswagen did put a little bit more priority on that. But then you have vents, you have your lighting options, you have your turn signal stock, you have the tilt and telescoping feature, and then a hybridized material, really nice handle on the steering wheel. It is heated, you have 3 heat settings, you have huge paddle shifters on the back, and then these are your hybridized power and manually adjusted seats. Kind of interesting. I love the texture design, I love the theme, I love the bolstering. It's actually really stiff, so it actually holds you in place. And then you have R stamped into the back, and that looks really nice. Sitting inside here feels really special. Although I would be totally fine if Volkswagen put a huge R right here to replace the blacked out Volkswagen badge. Still is a pretty nice place to be. The horn, it's actually really loud for this vehicle. Either the vehicle's not insulated well or the horn is extremely loud. Either way, I'm happy with that. The door sill doesn't feel overly high, like the belt line of the vehicle isn't too bad. And then the hood really slopes down so you can see pretty close to the front, fairly close to the sides. The side mirrors look sporty, but they also show you quite a bit, and I like that a lot. Firing it up with the push button start. Sorry about all the reflection on the factory covers on these screens. The screens are actually pretty responsive. They seem to do a good job. You have your R button there to get into your sport modes, basically. And then you have all of your adaptive cruise settings there, voice and volume, and a heated steering wheel here. And if you want to change some of the controls around on the instrument cluster, you're welcome to do that too. I'd say play around with that on your own because there's a lot of cool settings hidden in there. And then a lot of things that are controlled through the screen, like the heads-up display, which I can't show you today because it is taped over similarly to these screens. But there is a lot of good stuff in here. And then the screens actually work quickly. The backup camera, it's not fantastic, but it could be worse. Some other vehicles are worse, but it is big in diameter. And then you have the 360-degree parking sensors. So honestly, you can see everything reasonably well. You have a nice angle down storage bin. It almost looks like a wireless charger, but I don't see any of the icons there. And then has some USB Type-C plugins. You have a few more controls to get into your safety features right there, because even getting into this today, lane keep assist was turned off. I don't know why some of those features are turned off from the factory, so always check those out for yourself. But that is through the assist button right there. The other button that I've been using a lot is the mode select, get into race mode. Some things will change around a little bit. Basically, the transmission tightens up and it's more race ready and it holds RPM just a little bit longer, but it feels well tuned and well designed. And then you have the engine start stop, your different gear selects down here. You have a parking brake, electronic parking brake when you're stopped. Kind of interesting that there's a blank button though, even on this loaded out trim level. And then there's a pencil tray right there. You have some cup holders with a button to make it a more narrow cup holder, kind of cool. You have a 12 volt. You have a spot that you can put the key and the car will still register it. And then these are the R, if you guys can see that, hopefully. You can swap out the R's on the back of your key fobs. Really cool, I love that. But the center console, even for a compact, is really small. And then up here you have some lighting. It's LED, very bright. You have the SOS button. No panoramic sunroof on this one because it is the European package. And then you have an LED light right here. With that said, let's hop into the back and see what it has to offer. The back of the Golf R, actually, so far so good. You can see that the Maroni sticker doesn't take up a lot of the surface area of the window, plus you have that section behind the bar, the divider, the vertical bar, so you actually have a lot of glass. The materials look about the same as the front, harder on the top, soft on the door card. Speaker right there, no Harman Kardon advertised. Those are advertised on the A-pillars up front, if you guys can maybe see that right there. Anyways, nothing to really greet you on the door sill because this is only 4.8 feet tall. If you are taller, be careful as you hop down. And then the seats, they are a little bit harder to lay flat. You certainly can do it, but you're gonna have the headrest down all the way and then have the driver's seat and the front passenger reclined or inclined forward a little bit. Anyways, sitting behind myself, 5'11", you actually have a really nice cutout, some pretty good knee room, low map pocket, but then you have a couple phone pockets right there. And then you have vents, which is very uncommon on a compact car of any variety. That's really cool. You also have heated seats, and you have controls for your own HVAC, which is just amazing. And then, like a lot of other Volkswagens, you have the cup holders in the center, so it doesn't take up your space. Very good. And then you can even fold this down and have longer items go through the back. Because the 14-foot long Volkswagen Golf is not huge, and having a feature like that is actually really nice. And then you have LED lighting up top, and a pretty good view of the front from back here. And at 5'11", I have about that much room above my hat. I could actually road trip back here, which is really surprising and something I can't say about every compact crossover, including the back of the GR Corolla. I have to say the back of the Golf R looks absolutely fantastic. It is so simple in design. It has LED taillights and the third brake light. It also has the little bit of a wing up there, which is really cool, and then the blacked out shark fin antenna. Overall, the appearance of all this is really nice. The bumper doesn't stick out too far. I love the R. That's all that there is. That's all you need to know, basically. If you're looking at the back of this thing, probably when you're losing a race to it. Then you have a little bit of aero down there. You have the dual exhaust and the back of those sticky tires. This is a really good setup. And then if you haven't already seen, there's a lot of black gloss materials. They show dirt prints and dust really poorly, but then that's how you open it up. Very interesting. This one does have the privacy shade and the heat shade to help you on 90-degree days like today where it is super hot out. But this is pretty small. I know it's a compact, but there are bigger compacts than this. This only has about 20 cubic feet of room right here. There is no spare tire. There's a little bit of storage behind the wheel wells on the bottom, but it's pretty tight. There's a subwoofer and then a few more inches of height around it where you can store a lot of other stuff. And then even when you lay the seats down, you only have around 34 cubic feet of room, 35 at most, which is really sad. There are some other compacts that have in the 50-foot range. So keep that in mind if you are considering this. Again, another reason to test drive it before you buy it to make sure that this is the right vehicle for you. Anyways, let's move on to the passenger side. There's nothing new over here. You still have the R on the front of the door panel. You have blind spot monitoring and the turn signals. You can see both from inside. That's the turn signal that carries over, and then the blind spot monitoring is blacked out because this is the blacked out package. But when you open it up, basically everything looks the same. Something that Volkswagen also does pretty well is they give the passenger front seat a lot of the same materials and features that the driver gets. So this even has the power option here. Again, my backpack, having a good time, really enjoying the ride in the Golf R. There's even a mesh pocket right here for more storage, something that a lot of other performance cars don't have. And then the glove box is actually pretty big and probably makes up for the smaller size of the one right there, because that's actually pretty decently sized. And then comment below if that's real or fake carbon fiber. It looks really good. I would believe it either way. The vents come across the whole thing, but part of it is blocked out. So it looks really uniform, looks really good. And with that said, speaking of things that look really good, let's come around to the front, pop the hood, and I'll show you what the EA888 engine looks like. Under the hood is a 2-liter turbocharged engine. It's connected to the DSG 7-speed dual clutch, and it's a very good one. This engine does have a lot of upgrades over the regular Golf. Even though it still is a 2-liter turbo engine, has an upgraded turbo, upgraded cooling, upgraded internals, just the whole package to make it run better. And is it worth $15,000 for how well this thing runs with all-wheel drive? I mean, I'm gonna let you guys decide when you test drive one for yourself. Personally, I wasn't sure that this would be worth it over that, but I think this is. This thing is absolutely absurd. And then this generation of the EA888 engine, kind of like a lot of the other Volkswagens these days, they use a similar configuration to this. The reservoirs are on the periphery. You have a fuse box right there. It goes right into the turbo on the exhaust bank right there in the back next to the heat shield. And I love that Volkswagen doesn't hide the turbo under a heat shield like it's embarrassed. It's right there. It's out in the obvious as much as it can be for where this engine needs to sit, being transversely mounted. So the 4 cylinders do run like that. The serpentine belt is right there. The alternator is right there. The engine bracket holding it to the chassis, one of them is right there. It does look kind of tight to work on it. Comment below how these are to work on. And it doesn't say what oil it needs. I have heard on my most recent Volkswagen video though, that these can be kind of finicky to find someone who has the right oil for it. Anyways, you have the filter, goes through the turbo, comes around to the cooling up front, and then into the induction side right there. You have the battery, you have a fuse box, and overall, I can't wait to show you guys how this drives, although I am surprised that it has a pop rod for $54,000. And then like a lot of other Volkswagens, it has the dual latch system, which actually looks pretty cool. But keep in mind when you drop the hood, do it slowly because the hood, it's not heavy, but it does like to drop and sound kind of hard. So be aware of that. Anyways, let's drop the hood, take it for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the brand new 2025 Mark 8.5 Golf R. I'm really excited to show you guys this one. But first of all, we need to get up to speed. Even from a roll, this turbo engine really kicks in. The boost comes on around 3,000 RPM, and then it just pulls like a freight train. For being a hot hatch, this one is certainly underrated. It really pulls a lot harder than you'd expect and a lot harder than the rest of the competition. But because it's a Golf, you still have reasonable visibility. The side mirrors, while looking sporty, you can see right down the side, you can see those really large door handles that pop out and curve out with some nice texture, some really nice curvature to them. But then you have all the safety features to keep you safe, to help you avoid accidents. Because they're only 14 feet long, you can see right down the center, and I love that the compass is on this mirror, like some of the other competitors to this vehicle in the higher trim levels. And then the handling is fantastic. For being slightly front-wheel drive biased, because it is a transversely mounted engine, although it does have torque vectoring in the all-wheel drive system, it handles really good. The brakes, especially those huge drilled rotors up front, they slow you down really well on the street. Handling seems to stay pretty flat, and then you can easily power out of. Ooh, this thing is seriously insane. It's also so crazy how quickly you get up to speed in this car. So you do have to be careful. Even though you're not going to be spinning tires unless you're in the drift mode, you still have to be very careful because this vehicle honestly feels very track ready. For being the more mature hot hatch, you can still have so much fun with this car. It is not dull, it is not unimpressive. You might not hear as many snap, crackle, and pop in the exhaust as you do on something like a Corolla GR, but seriously, for the adult driver, this is a very fun, very entertaining vehicle. And technically, you can fit full-size adults in the back seat. You're not gonna have as much space as you do in some other vehicles, but for being a compact class of car, this thing is absolutely absurd. Really is a lot of fun to drive, and all the features in it actually work. The Harman Kardon speakers sound pretty decent, even though there's not as many speakers as a larger car. It seems like overall it's really well insulated, and these performance Potenza tires really don't seem to be kicking up a lot of rocks unless we're on actual gravel like we are right here. But then the curvature of the seat, the bolstering, actually holds you in place really well. At 5'11", I feel snug in these seats. I do have just enough headroom to wear a hat and have another inch or two above my head, especially where we don't have the panoramic sunroof on this Euro spec trim level. And then even like the heated steering wheel, which has multiple options for the heat settings and the heated seats, they actually get really hot. They feel really nice, and I like this vehicle a lot. But anyways, guys, I'm just rambling on. So let me get to the private road and we'll do a 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the Mark 8.5 Volkswagen Golf R. We're in race mode. I'm gonna do a brake rev, but keep in mind density altitude puts us at 6,000 feet above sea level, so we really have that going against us. That means this turbo engine is probably down on power about 10%. Let's see what it can do. That DSG is quite impressive. True 0 to 60 on the first attempt came in at 5.62, but I know this can do a lot better, and it didn't really launch very well, so let's see if we can play around with the settings and try that again. Okay, so we are still in race mode, but now traction control is turned off because it did not want the car to do a very good launch. So with that said, let's see what this can do on attempt number 2. Still, why is it not revving? Interesting. This thing seriously gets right up to speed though. 5.83 with, again, not a very good launch. All right, we're gonna try one more time because third time is the charm. You guys can see bottom left corner, ESC is off. Traction is off right there. We are still in race mode, which I'll pull up to, oh, actually now we're in race mode again like we were before. But let's see if we can beat the 5.6, 5.8 second time. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, okay. Woo! goodness. For being a hot hatch, that is absurd. True 0 to 60 at over a mile above sea level in 4.64 seconds. That's usually 500, 600 horsepower car territory. Not bad, Volkswagen Golf R. My final thoughts of the refreshed Mark 8.5 Volkswagen Golf R is this thing is fantastic. This is actually the first Golf that I think I've driven. I've driven the Golf before, but not the R, that's what I'm trying to say. This thing blew me away with how awesome it is. It's faster than the Supra I tested. It's faster than most non-C8 Corvettes I've tested, in similar density altitude, of course. It is faster than a lot of other vehicles, but not just from 0 to 60, and not only when you can actually do the launch protocol where it actually gains about a second 0 to 60 in my area, even from a 60 roll, even from a 50 roll. These things pull really hard, and it has power everywhere. Everywhere above, I'd say about 2,000 RPM. Below 2,000, it might feel just a tiny bit lurchy depending on how much pressure you put on the gas pedal. But overall, it feels fantastic, and for being a hot hatch, competing against the WRX, the Civic, and the GR Corolla, honestly, in my opinion, this kind of blows those cars away. This feels a lot faster with the dual clutch transmission. Sure, it might not be as fun as shifting your own gears, but even when this still was offered with a 6-speed manual like last year, these ones are rated for about a half second faster than manual. So it is very quick. And for about 54 grand, you're getting about $54,000 worth of performance. You just have to decide if the Golf body meets your needs. If this can take care of you, your family, your dogs, whatever you have, your cats, I don't know, whatever you have in your life that you need to haul around, decide for yourself, but it does have a pretty good payload capacity. The hatch does open up pretty well. It's just that behind the driver's seat, you do have a little bit more room than the other hot hatches. Not the WRX. The WRX I think is more spacious, but compared to the other ones, not only is it faster, but it's more spacious. And this one with the blacked out package seriously looks so dang good. Honestly, if I was buying it today, I would not buy the European package. I'd rather have the panoramic sunroof, and I don't want to feel like I'm paying more and getting less. But for some people, this is exactly what you want. I love the blacked out badges that illuminate on the front. This really feels like it has a lot of the higher genetic DNA from some of the other non-Volkswagen brands. And I love what they've done with this car. Anyways, guys, I'm just ranting on at this point. This is a phenomenal vehicle. Really impressed me. Honestly, I would love to own one someday. But what are your thoughts? What are your opinions? Have you owned one? Are you gonna buy one? What are you comparing it to? Comment all that below. Check out Goody Motor Volkswagen or the Twin Falls Volkswagen in Twin Falls, Idaho. They are such a cool group. They have a lot of cars like this, and it's fun to work with them. And until next time, I wish you guys the best. So if you got anything out of this video, please like it, comment those thoughts again, subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you on the next one. See ya.